Well, shwmae pawb and croeso y gyginio ar y hyd. Hello everyone and welcome to the Happy Cymru Cook Along. My name is Richard and heddiw today we are going to be making some Irish soda bread, because if you haven't guessed from the flags just around me, we are celebrating Irish Week this week in readiness for St. Patrick's Day on Wednesday. So just as with all of the cook-alongs, now that I have got everything sorted computer-wise, I just need to go and wash my hands and I will be back with you in 20 seconds. So this is your 20-second warning to go and grab yourself a little drink, grab yourself a sheet of paper ready for the ingredients list, and I will be back in 20 seconds ready to show you how to make, and I'm going to whet your appetite just here, how to make this delicious Irish soda bread, which I promise you, in the words of not my Irish friends, but my West Walian friends, is absolutely cowing lush. So give me 20 seconds just to quickly wash my hands over there and I will be back in the room. Good afternoon if you've just joined us. I'm just quickly washing my hands and welcome to the Irish Cook Along week, where we are going to be making Irish soda bread ready for St. Patrick's Day on Wednesday, and we're also going to be making a Colcannon cottage pie on Thursday. So bear with me, I've just washed my hands, just drying them off. My paper towel just goes into there and I am just quickly popping a little bit of my antibacterial gel back on my hands. Give that a little mix and you'll be pleased to know that I'm back in the room. So just as with all of our cook along sessions, I'm going to start off with my official part this afternoon, and then it will very much go downhill from there. The first thing that's gone downhill is that I haven't shown you this bit just here. So let's get started with the official bit and then everything will go downhill. So the official part for me this afternoon is Prynhawn da pawb and croeso y gyginio ar y hyd. Good afternoon everybody and welcome to the Happy Cymru Cook Along. My name is Richard and heddiw today we are going to be starting to celebrate our Irish Week in readiness, couldn't get my words out just then, in readiness for St. Patrick's Day on Wednesday. And you can see the first thing that we're making this week is we are going to be doing this delicious, really easy, even though it looks absolutely fantastic, Irish style soda bread. And I promise you, when you serve this with some leek and potato soup or with a nice Irish stew, it's absolutely blasus iawn, super tasty. So I'm just going to pop that just behind me and I'll show you how we're going to serve it later, but let me tell you how we are going to make these ingredients. Now then, I'm hoping, I've got a new computer system set up, so I'm hoping that if I just click that button just there, the ingredients list has just come up for us on the side over there, and you can see that we're going to need approximately, let me just count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different ingredients, but hopefully you've got most of these ingredients in the store cupboard, right? And what we're going to be using first of all is we need 150 grams of plain flour, okay? You could use strong bread flour. However, the difference between an Irish sort of soda bread and a yeasted bread is that the raising agent for our soda bread is actually bicarbonate of soda. So there's great thing about this is that there's no physical kneading. The chemical process takes place as soon as it goes into the oven. So we don't want to over knead it, so you can get away with just using plain flour, right? So we've got our plain flour just there. To keep it on the healthy side, we're also going to be using 50 grams of wholemeal flour there as well. If you haven't got the wholemeal flour, it's not the end of the world. Just use the extra 50 grams as plain flour, okay? So we've got that just there. We're also going to be adding a teaspoon of our bicarbonate of soda, and that's the bit, as I said, that's going to produce the carbon dioxide to help our bread to rise. And we've got a little bit of mixed herbs. I'm going to add a little bit of cheese to give a bit of flavour, but also because we don't have to add any salt. And then rather than using buttermilk, because buttermilk is one of those things that is not easy to get hold of, easier than it was a few years ago, but it's still not always available in the supermarkets and shops. So I'm just going to use some milk, and I'm going to sort of make my own sort of buttermilk, or we're going to make a little bit of a sour sort of milk, and I'll show you that afterwards just there. So that's our wet ingredients just there. So let's get me push those bits over there, and we can get started. Now this bread needs to be done really quickly. So as soon as you add the liquid, you need to work quite quickly. So it's all about your pre-preparation. So as I said, I've got my 150 grams of wholemeal or white plain flour just there. Just looking for a little spoon because it's all stuck in the bottom of my bowl. So let's get all of that out just like that. Now I measured this earlier with a set of weighing scales. As I always say, if you haven't got weighing scales, you don't have to be overly precise, because one heaped spoonful just like that is equal to 25 grams. So it would work out at about 6 dessert spoons of our plain flour and 2 heaped dessert spoons of our wholemeal flour. So I'm going to pop my wholemeal flour in just like that. I've then got my mixed herbs, and as you know, I love my mixed herbs and parsley, so I'm going to add half a teaspoon of my mixed herbs just there, and then I want 1 teaspoon of my bicarb annatto soda, and let me go all the way into there. You want a heaped spoonful just like that. I'm hoping that you're able to see that in the screen just there. And that, as I've said a couple of times, is going to produce the carbon dioxide as soon as it starts heating up, and that will help our bread to rise. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how we're going to do that in a couple of moments. So all the last thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to give that a little mix in one direction. And then the final thing, not compulsory, because as you can see on the ingredients list, you don't have to add it. It is an optional, but it will add a little bit of flavour, right? So I'm just going to add the cheese into there, just 25 grams, just like that. And if you grate it, as you know, it goes a lot further. So I'm just going to give that just a little mix, just like that, so it's all sort of combined. And I'm going to make a well in the centre, just so. So that is my dry ingredients, or my new Welsh word, as you know, my cynhwysion sych. So I'm just going to pop that over there. Then we come to our cynhwysion gwlyb, our wet ingredients, or our make do sort of pretend sort of buttermilk. If you've got buttermilk is obviously the milk. I'm shaking some cream just there, right? Because if you shake cream in a jam jar, right, you'll end up with butter, right? And it's the water and the liquid that comes off that is the buttermilk, right? Not overly easy to get in the supermarkets. As I said, a lot easier these days than it was, but you can sort of make a substitute one if you can't get it. So what I've got just there is 175 grams of, or millilitres rather, of semi-skimmed milk, and I'm just going to pour that just into my bowl or my jug just like that, so it's easier to pour afterwards. Then all I'm going to do is I'm going to add a teaspoon, and I'm going to use this one to add just less than half a sort of dessert spoon, which is equal to a teaspoon anyway, of lemon juice. And you don't necessarily need to be using fresh lemon juice. Lemon juice from concentrate is fine, right? And what will happen as soon as you add that, because that's an acid, this will actually start to sort of thicken up. The longer that it's in there, you'll see that your milk will become a little bit thicker, right? You're souring the milk, you're adding acid to it, right? So it will start to become a little bit thicker, right? Just like that. So if you leave it for a couple of moments, it will start to thicken up. It will look as if it's curdled eventually, right? But it has curdled, but it'll be fine, right? So we've got that just there. Before I add my wet ingredients, I need to make sure that I have prepared my tray, because this now works really quickly. So for my tray, I'm just going to do it on a piece of baking tray just like that, and I'm just going to put some flour on the bottom, just like that. I've also got my porridge oats ready to add to it afterwards. What I also need is some sort of flat surface, so I'm going to use a table knife or the handle of a spoon just there. So let's get cracking, right? I've made my little well in the centre. I'm just going to grab myself a wooden spoon, little well in the centre, and you're going to add, as I said, this was about 175 mils of water. You're going to add about 3/4 of it, right? Because, as I always do when I'm bread making, you can always add more, but you can't take any out, right? So I'm going to add just 1/2 to 3/4 of my milk, just like that. And then I'm just going to gently mix it up, right? And all you're looking for is not a really sticky dough, okay? But you're looking for, and not too dry. So if I show you that in the screen just there, you can see that there's still quite a lot of flour just there, right? So I'm just going to add just a tipping back, a little bit more water, milk just into there, just until you make a dough that is slightly sticky. It's not too floury, and the way that I like to do it is, particularly when you're using a glass dish just like this, you should be able to have a cleanish sort of bowl. So if I hold that up just like that, you can see that we've got that just as so. Now then, we have to work particularly quickly now, because now that we've added the liquid to that dry mixture, that bicarbonate of soda is starting to do its chemical reaction, right? So we need to work fairly quickly, right? So I'm just going to flour my surface, put a little bit of blowd, add a both just like that, mix it round, a little bit of blowd, add a doiler just there on my hands, and I can scrape all of that off just as so. Then we're not going to need it. If we were making a sort of yeasted bread, we'd spend, as you know, when I make bread, another 5 minutes now of kneading, right? You don't need to do this with that. All that you want to do is you want to just roll it in your flour and just press it round just until you get a nice round just as so, right? Nice and smooth on the top, and you've got a nice round just like that. That's literally all that you need to do. Then we just pop that straight onto our flour baking tray, and soda bread is always served in little fowls, right? And fowls are just little triangles, and the reason they do that is because it allows the heating to allow that chemical reaction so that it can expand. Because if you did it like that, it would stay sort of the shape and it'd end up like a little monster, right? So all I'm going to do is cut down like that. I'm not cutting all the way through, you're just cutting around. Now if I had a larger knife, I would have just cut straight down, right? So you're just cutting down just like that, and what that will allow is it for all to fall out just as so. You can see that just there, right? The last thing I'm going to do is, I've got a little bit of leftover milk. I'm just going to brush the top just as so, all the way around, making sure that you make sure that it's well covered, because that's going to help it to go nice and golden brown in colour, and it'll also stick the bits that we're adding on top. So traditionally this would be served with some porridge oats on top, hence I've got my porridge oats. So just get my hands in, sprinkle those on top. You can add as little or as much. You could add something else to it. You could add seeds on top, but traditionally it's served with that. And then that goes into a preheated oven at 190 degrees centigrade. That's fan. 200 degrees centigrade if it's a conventional oven, or Gasmark 5/6, so quite a hot oven, and it'll rise, and those fowls will sort of expand out just like that. So I'm going to pop that into my little oven just over there. So as you know, I've got one that I prepared earlier, and I'm going to show it to you in a couple of moments, but I think it's quite important that I clean my area down first of all. So talk amongst yourselves. If you have got any questions this afternoon about the Irish soda bread, then probably now is the time to pop your comments in the comments side, and either myself or someone from the Happy team will be pleased to answer your questions. So talk amongst yourselves, as I said, and obviously the Happy Project are still asking us to complete their little form, a little bit form just about the work that they are doing on their Facebook page. If you haven't had chance to complete their questionnaire, it's not as big as the census, I promise you, which is coming up, but if you have got time to do it, then it would be much appreciated, because it'll allow us to learn about what you're enjoying on the Facebook page, but also how we can improve the service as well. So bear with me, I'm just going to quickly wash my hands and I will be back in the room. Okay, so quickly wash my hands, let me rinse that out, and I can come back in the room, quickly wipe that over just to soak, because I like a nice clean surface. There we go. And as I said, in true Blue Peter style, here is one that I prepared earlier, and you can see it's a lovely dark brown sort of colour, still golden, not burnt, right? I don't care what anyone says, it's still not burnt, right? And you can see that it's well risen, and where we put those files in, those triangles, it's sort of come out. And what we should be able to do, because we've got those files, we should be able to break it open just like that. And if I hold, right, if I pull those apart just as so, you should be able to see, if I pop that onto my tray just there, how delicious it looks when you serve it, right? Now, the only disadvantage with this, or the advantage, whatever you want to call it, is that it needs to be eaten on the same day, because it will go hard the next day, right? But what you can do is you can make a couple of batches. You could do a double batch, you could eat one today, freeze the other one down, and then defrost it ready for a later date. So you can still freeze it, but it won't last if you just put it into the bread bin or anything like that. And as I said, you could serve this with some leek and potato soup, you could serve it with an Irish stew, you could serve it with so many different things. It is an absolutely wonderful. So that brings me to the end of today's Irish style sort of cook-along, the first of our Irish week cook-alongs. On Thursday we are going to be celebrating it the day after the big day, which is St. Patrick's Day on Wednesday. However, we are going to be doing, let me just think, a Colcannon cottage pie, which I promise you, I made it yesterday, and it is absolutely a winner chicken dinner, right? It's absolutely fantastic. So all that leaves for me to say is, don't forget that the recipe cards are available on the Facebook page as well as our website. But thank you very much for watching. I will see you on Thursday. Happy St. Patrick's Day on Wednesday, and diolch yn fawr, and thank you for watching. Coginio hapus.